Boots on the ground, huh?
Boots on the ground, indeed. T-minus.
Is it NRG Stadium? Is that what it's still called? NRG Stadium?
NRG, formerly known as Reliant Stadium.
Reliant Stadium.
Now it's NRG. So, yeah, we're going to have boots on the ground tonight, Tony.
Let's go. I need to... Hey, welcome in, smart football people, back in your life after 2 weeks? 2 weeks since we were...
Too long.
Too long for sure. But the last couple of weeks we were out. I had a tooth removed. I was out of town. A lot of things were happening. But as always, glad to be joined by the one and only Adam Rauch from EstablishTheRun.com. The best place on the planet, really, to get fantasy advice when it comes to DFS, season long, best ball, anything. And they don't only do football, they also do basketball, they do golf, they do a bunch of different things. So tap in over there at ETR. The boys will take care of if you play DFS for really any sport, or season long for any sport. Those are the guys that make it happen over there. So, Adam, first off, thank you for joining us. Second off, I think the craziest trade deadline in the NFL that we've had maybe ever. Is that too much to say?
No, I mean, wasn't it the most amount of trades in a trade deadline ever recorded? I think I had seats on it somewhere. Yeah, I mean, and it was nonstop from about late morning, lunchtime up until the end of the deadline. We saw moves throughout the day, and some significant ones that could impact some fantasy teams.
All right, so let's steamroll through some of them. I think the biggest one is not a super fantasy viable one, but I think the Bradley Chubb trade from Denver to Miami. Miami sends over a first for 23 and a fourth, I want to say, along with Chase Edmonds, over to Denver. Denver sends over Bradley Chubb. I was hearing in a bunch of different places that there was other teams that were in the mix that were going to give 2 first-round picks for Bradley Chubb. I'm curious to see why the Broncos chose Miami to send Chubb when they could have had 2 first-round picks. Like, that's something that interests me. Like, why take a first and a fourth and a running back that's kind of whatever, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think if you would, 2 firsts for Bradley Chubb sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I wonder if those first round picks were a lot later. That could have been it. Some of that may have to do with what was in Bradley Chubb's contract in Denver. I don't know if Chubb had like a no trade clause, or he could kind of dictate where he would want to be traded. That could be a possibility. I didn't see that report that there was a trade offer for 2 first round picks.
I think it was more rumors than offers. I think there was somebody had called and was like, hey, 2 firsts. Maybe it was the opposite way. Maybe the Broncos were calling around saying, hey, do you guys have 2 firsts for me? And maybe the best deal that they could get was a first, a fourth, and Chase Edmonds. So not only that, which I think long-term for the Dolphins, it's going to be a good deal. They just signed him to $62 million guaranteed, 120 overall over 4 years with Bradley Chubb, who's
just signed it today.
Just signed it today. He's got a massive pass rush win rate. Like, I think top 3 in the league. Really good pass rusher. I think it's going to be really good for the Dolphins as they try to fight in the AFC. Along with that trade, Jeff Wilson also heads to town to meet up with Mike McDaniel. Are you intrigued with the possibility of Jeff Wilson being a 50-50 split with Raheem Mostert in a decent offense where he has the opportunity to be kind of the goal line guy and score touchdowns and vulture some touchdowns from Raheem Mostert?
I'm always intrigued when an NFL head coach purposefully targets trading for a player that was in his system previously. And Jeff Wilson fits that mold with Mike McDaniel. Back in the 49ers, I think Mike McDaniel likes Jeff Wilson's skill set. And look, if they're trading for him, I think that means they're going to want to carve out a role for him. And, we had alluded to Chase Edmonds leaving town. I think he had kind of clearly fallen out of favor with the coaching staff there. And
7 drops will do that, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. 7 drops makes that very easy.
It will. And I don't think Chase Edmonds was very adept at hitting holes that were created by the offensive line. So I could see why the coaching staff may be leaning towards more finding a player that suits their needs better. Jeff Wilson being in that coaching scheme in San Francisco certainly helps. And Raheem Mostert's not a workhorse back by any means. Speed demon for sure, and is capable of busting some big plays. But I think it's a good move for the Miami backfield. I think brings in a lot of familiarity from Mike McDaniel, which will only help them. And look, they're making a push to go to the Super Bowl, guys, and it's not surprising given the nature and the current standing of the AFC.
Yeah, only two teams really ahead of them, Bills and Chiefs, that they can look up to and say, okay, like we already beat the Bills once, albeit a weird situation. The Chiefs are good, but beatable, right? The Colts beat them. Like, let's get serious. The carcass of Matt Ryan beat them.
When you say weird situation, is that because they played us here and they had our?
I think it was a weird game.
Biasly as a Dolphins fan,
right? I think it was 177 degrees.
First of all,
Josh Allen threw the ball 70 times. Like, it was just a weird game overall. It was September. Like,
yeah.
It's a weird game. Like,
the Dolphins beating them with 70 throws is a big deal, and that's why
the Dolphins.
Now, go ahead.
The Dolphins beating them after Tua was obviously concussed and then put a dime 54 yards down the field between two safeties to Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
To me was the weird part of all this, right? Like, the fact that he did that after an obvious concussion, even though they keep telling us it wasn't a concussion, like, that was amazing.
Let me ask you guys a quick question. I know we want to delve more into fantasy, but do you think if the Dolphins have any chance to come out of the AFC, they're going to have home field in a playoff game or two? Do you think that has to happen?
I don't think it has to happen. Would it be ideal? Yes. Are they going to win the division? No. I think the Bills are going to run away with the division. Just because I think they're a better team offensively and defensively. I think the Dolphins can go two teams and beat them. I'm trying to think of, outside of the Ravens game, they went to Baltimore and won. Looking across other games, is that the biggest road test that they've faced?
I'm trying to see.
Probably. I don't have the schedule pulled up, but that was certainly a big test, given the nature of how that game went. And how
lost to the Bengals on the road. They went to Cincinnati and lost.
Tua was out.
Tua was out, but like,
and then no Tua.
Right. So biggest test on the road there against Baltimore. Do we have faith in the Dolphins that they're going to go to Baltimore again in January and win in a wild card situation against them, or go to the Browns? Could the Browns make a wild card run?
The Browns are nasty, dude.
Just throwing that out there. A little the Browns. I mean,
the Browns move the ball. Anyways, one of my points is like the Dolphins throttle well, like the Bills do. Yeah. Like, they just turn it on and they can just get down the field and they're gonna score and they're gonna do what they want at will. We've never seen a Dolphins team that could do that. At least I haven't in my lifetime. I'm 30 years old.
Well, and now they've shored up
at will.
Yeah. And now they've shored up the other part of their offense, which is, hey, we need guys in the backfield that can throttle and get downhill and get big plays. And I think getting Jeff Wilson in there with Raheem Mostert, given what was out there, what was available to them, I think it's a good move. And then shoring up on the defensive side with Bradley Chubb, it's a good. I think it was a good trade deadline for the Dolphins.
The Dolphins beat them. I keep saying we, excuse me, but like,
Dolphins beat who?
The Bills with their Von Miller and not with our Chubb. We have Chubb. I have Chubb.
Other fantasy relevant trades that happened throughout the trade deadline. We saw TJ Hockenson go from interdivision trade from the Lions over to the Vikings. I'm intrigued by that as well. I don't think that it's much of a downgrade for anybody outside of maybe Adam Thielen, right? Like, I see him kind of in the middle of the field guy. A lot of touchdowns are going to be absorbed.
Well, I think the real reason they made that trade was because of the Irv Smith injury.
Right.
And, Irv Smith now out 8 to 10 weeks. This just shores up that position for them, gives them an opportunity to make a push in the NFC. And, it may affect Adam Thielen's target share a little bit. Adam Thielen wasn't having a tremendous year to begin with.
100%.
But it gives them another element to work with.
It was a full fade for me on season long with Adam Thielen. Like, he had nothing left in the tank last year, and we're going to get 1 year older and 1 year slower and 1 year with more injuries possibly. Like, that was an easy one. We had a decently sized trade. Nahiem Heinz heading over to the Bills. Not something that I feel like a lot of people have touched on. I feel like that basically just slid in underneath the garage door for doing like a Tom Cruise movie where he like slides in and like just as the door is closing.
He's a playoff contender.
Yeah, exactly. Like way better offense. Oh shit.
I can play with passion now.
Adam, what do you think about Nahiem Heinz? Obviously, they have James Cook there, who they drafted with pretty high draft capital to be that role. Now they go and get a more established guy in that pass-catching back role. They obviously have Devin Singletary, who can do a lot of those same things and has been doing them pretty successfully this season. Like, what does the trade for Nahiem Heinz mean for the Bills and for everybody in that backfield?
Well, unfortunately for me, I took a big personal stance on James Cook entering the year as a rookie that could show some promise and some potential, maybe be a little bit of a sleeper. I believe on his first NFL carry of the season, he fumbled.
Yes.
Which that was no better way to start your season than in your career by fumbling and losing the ball to the other team. I was hoping that he would be more of a factor by now in the Bills offense. Apparently they don't see it that way. And they had an opportunity to go get Nahiem Heinz, who can play that pass catching role, who can supplement and complement Devin Singletary, who's more of a pure runner. It just gives Josh Allen more weapons. And, you know, it's on the surface level, it's not a huge move. Nahiem Heinz is not a name that maybe your more casual football fan would know. But I think for both fantasy and for actual real life football, it's a good move. I think once he picks up the system, give him a few weeks, he's going to be playable, and I think he could be a big contributor for them.
I know he was, at least in PPR leagues, he was barely, because I have him kind of across all of my teams. I'm very heavily invested in Nahiem Heinz. I know he was barely playable as a flex in the last couple of weeks just because for whatever reason, they changed his role in Indianapolis. Like, he used to be catching 3, 4, 5 passes a game, and then it basically, vaporized. Now he's moving to a team and a quarterback in Josh Allen that likes to throw to running backs. Like, can we see him climb the ranks and maybe go from a flex play a couple of weeks ago to rounding out now here in the fantasy playoffs the next couple of weeks? Could we see him be a PPR RB2 catching
absolutely
4 or 5 balls a week?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even with Devin Singletary, I think it's a possibility, especially if you're playing in a bit of a deeper league. And look, all it takes is a Devin Singletary injury or a fumble problem, and all of a sudden you're looking at Nahiem Heinz' role even increasing further. And anytime you have a receiving back and a dynamic offense, like Buffalo's the best offense in the league, arguably, that's a situation you want to take advantage of. Even if you have to stash Heinz on your bench for a couple weeks, see how it plays out. I think it's worth it.
What happens to the Colts backfield?
Ooh, well, you would think it'd be Jonathan Taylor full go, and Jonathan Taylor's dealing with a bit of an ankle injury right now. So a lot of eyes are on Deion Jackson. I put in a couple of waiver bids for him this week in some deeper leagues of mine. Deion Jackson has proven that he can handle a workload. He can be effective. Colts have a above average, if not good, offensive line, especially in the middle. And until JT is healthy again, we haven't really seen the season-long price tag pay off on JT yet.
At all.
But he's got to get over this ankle injury, which y'all have talked about before. Ankle injuries are the toughest injuries to get over. And look, the Colts offense as a whole is just down bad. They're just down bad right now. So, we'll have to just kind of wait and see on JT down the road.
It's tough to have an ROI of 1-1, right? Like, you have to have a historic season whenever you're picking from the 1-1. And I just never see the 1-1 return that good of an investment. Like,
the last couple of years, think of it. Like
I'm trying to think of who. Yeah, but even those guys were picked.
Also,
you're right. I'm saying this year, people who drafted Jonathan Taylor, which most people drafted from the 1-1 Jonathan Taylor.
But man, anybody that you pick at 1-1,
it's never.
They have to hit. They have to hit.
That's why it's, in my opinion, the worst pick in the entire draft.
Like if you go Cooper Kupp, like, it's a smart pick because he's having a good year. Obviously now he got hurt, But
yeah. And if you went CMC, like I think at ETR our consensus number one was CMC. You were worried there for a few weeks because he wasn't producing at an RB1 level, but that trade to San Francisco really boosted him. And now, I mean, you saw last week what CMC did. That was a true RB1 performance. So anyone who's got CMC right now who is worried for the first few weeks, I think you're sitting pretty. One thing I forgot to mention on that Colts running back situation is Zach Moss actually went back to the Colts in that trade. A guy who never really got off the ground in Buffalo. So I'll be curious to see how Moss fits into their game plan, their role in the backfield moving forward as well.
Are there any other trade? I'm trying to think if there are any other trades that happened that were fantasy relevant.
The only one that we didn't touch on was the Chase Claypool trade to Chicago.
Oh yeah, and I feel like
ugly to ugly. I think.
Were you surprised they got a second for him?
Yes, very. I was very surprised that they got a second for him. I thought that the
fourth. I thought
no. Well, here's the thing. I don't think that teams are actively talking to other teams about what they're trading, right? And what we heard at the end of the day was the Packers and the Bears were both going for Chase Claypool. Now, what I would like to know is, because it happens in our fantasy leagues, right? As regular, minions, when you have somebody that calls you and you're like, yo, I want player X. And then that person tells you, well, the other guy who's trying to trade for player X is going to give me X and Y on the way back. Right? Like on the way back, they're going to send me this. I wonder if NFL teams do the same thing. So all of a sudden the Steelers pick up the phone. Hey, it's the Packers. We'll offer you a fourth for Claypool. And they're like, okay, we'll call you back. Boom, click. Hey, it's the Bears. We'll give you a fourth for Claypool. And they're like, the Packers are offering me a third, right? Trying to play him. And then all of a sudden, they're like, all right, you know what? We'll give you a second. The Packers, because they're in our division, we'll give you a second for him. All right, done. Boom. Dude, that has to happen, right?
It can't just be. It's happening at the highest levels.
Exactly.
It can't.
Exactly.
Negotiation.
Exactly. So I think it was just a byproduct of negotiation skills between, the Steelers and the Packers and the Bears. But as far as Claypool the player, are we sure? I'm gonna open it up to the floor here in the chat. Are we sure that Claypool is a better player than Darnell Mooney?
I think so, bro.
Do you think so?
I mean, they're kind of
6'4", dude.
But 6'4" does not matter because Claypool plays like he's 5'11". Like he does not play big.
That's the only thing I was going to
say to him in the last 3 years.
The one thing I was going to say is they're completely different sized players. They have different. I mean, they both kind of. I mean, Claypool has kind of been like a big slot guy, and Darnell Mooney does play in the slot as well, but different skill sets. But Claypool is certainly talented. I think, hey, is he going to be fantasy relevant the rest of this season? Probably not. Could it work out? Maybe he just needs a change of scenery, and maybe next year we start seeing some of those dividends pay out. Sure, I could see that. It was a trade that caught my eye, but I just don't know. I don't know if it's pushing the needle that much this season for me.
Lou, were you're about to say something?
Yeah, like the thing about Darnell Mooney is like he's also who's the second receiver in Chicago?
EQ St. Brown.
Like they have no that wide
Velus Jones Jr.
Velus Jones, the oldest rookie.
It's nearly empty, is what I'm saying. Like there's no
Cole Kmet is
they have
running
a good,
out there
like
somewhere.
with Khalil Herbert, they have a good run game. So it's clearly that they're like, look, you're gonna throw the ball in the air because Justin Field can throw the ball. He can move like
he's throwing the ball better. Let's say that he's throwing the ball better. Because he's playing really well. Adam, you and I were talking about this today. Like, do you think that Justin Fields can push the Miami defense? And I'm like, yeah, because just as a runner, I think that he's such a dynamic playmaker as a runner that it opens up the throwing lanes. There was a couple passes that were so atrocious in that Patriots Monday night game. One I'm thinking in specific where there was a I don't know if it was a bubble screen or like a wide receiver screen that he threw out to the flat that like sailed and hit somebody in the helmet. Like it was such a bad throw. And I was like, what was that? Right. Like he's still developing as a passer and they're not calling a ton of downfield. Like I'd be interested to see, I don't know if you have this, Adam, like his average yards per attempt, like what that looks like, because they can't be high. It's got to be a lot of low ADOT stuff.
Ooh,
I'm going to give you a second to look. I'm going to give you a second to look at it.
Give me a second to chance to check that. I'll check that.
But just in that trade, like I think that it's obviously good for Justin Fields. If you have Justin Fields, if he's out on your waiver wire, go pick him up, because I think the last weeks 5 through 8, he's like QB2 or something. Like he's balling right now.
Well, I was just going to say, I think Fields benefits greatly from his ability to run, but they got to be in the right game script. Last week they were in the right game script against Dallas, where they got down big time early, because they do like to lean on the running backs. Khalil Herbert is dynamite talented, and David Montgomery is going to get work. So it's got to be in the right game script.
Is David Montgomery good?
That's a great question, dude. And we need professional help.
Is he good? I feel like it's a lot of Zeke versus Tony Pollard thing, but just in Chicago, where it's like Khalil Herbert's obviously the better back, but we're just going to be stubborn to give Montgomery, aka Zeke, the ball because
money matter, dude.
Right, we have to justify.
Yeah, I mean, I think Montgomery can shed a tackle or two. I mean, I think if we're comparing situations, Chicago to Dallas, I think Montgomery's better than Zeke, but I think Khalil Herbert is just really good. Like, he's really good, and the Bears are doing the right thing and featuring him more, because he's just a dynamic player. He's a dynamic player in the passing game and in the running game. So, I think it's the right move. Still finding this yards per attempt on Justin Fields. We'll see.
You keep looking. I'm gonna filibuster by saying this. Something that didn't happen in the trade deadline, but that was, I think, exciting for fantasy players across the landscape that were holding on this certain player. Kadarius Toney gets moved to the Kansas City Chiefs for a 3rd and a 6th early last week. I think me and probably Mike Ryan are the biggest Kadarius Toney truthers on media, at least at Levitard's show. And I love Kadarius Toney. I think that
all of media.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has caped up for Kadarius Toney as much as I have and as much as Mike has, like, through me telling him, like, yo, this guy's really good. But him moving over to Kansas City for a 3rd and a 6th is an interesting play, because 3rd round picks are important, and especially the way that Kansas City likes to draft. They want to build a specific mold, it feels like, for their offense. And I said this on the show, I want to say it was maybe yesterday, when the Dolphins were trading picks and all these people were trading picks and stuff. It's like, picks are overrated, right? The optimism and the thought of picks are more important than almost the actual picks themselves. Because you can have a 1st round pick, and how many times do you look at Wikipedia, 1st round of 2017, 1st round of 2016, and you're looking through,
that guy got drafted there, dude. What?
Dude, and you're looking at 29 guys that were shit in the 1st round. Like, and then you see 3 guys that ended up being Pro Bowlers.
Gangster, dog. That's why he's so good, dude. He turned those draft picks into
real players. That's the important thing. Real players, not fantasy players, right? This isn't fantasy football. This is real football, as Arthur Smith likes to say. This isn't fantasy football. The fact that they turned a 3rd and a 6th into Kadarius Toney, who's somebody that they can use long term if certain guys don't pan out. I know Juju's on a 1-year rental. I know MVS is MVS, right? He's going to do one thing, which is go 9 routes, and that's kind of it. Like, if they can get Kadarius Toney up to speed, and if they can utilize him the way that we saw the Giants do last year, like, this could be a huge piece for Kansas City. What do you think about that, Adam?
I went out and got Kadarius Toney.
Attaboy.
He was somehow available in a league of mine when that trade went down, so I went and scooped him up. Again, I like getting pieces that have a bit of uncertainty, even if they're in an offense that is as productive as Kansas City's, or like we were talking about Nahiem Heinz earlier in Buffalo. It just makes sense. Look, there's a reason they wanted to go out and get that guy. They got him. You got to think they're going to try to find a way to use him, especially down the stretch. By the way, jumping back on Justin Fields' yards per attempt, 7.5. So, yeah.
Like, for what he is, like, it's actually They're playing to that. No, it's not. It's kind of trash. I mean, it's just them. The Falcons. Like, there's teams that are just super run heavy that just don't throw the ball. I'm actually surprised that it's somewhere in the 7s.
I mean,
they're just not attempting a lot of deep passes.
Higher than Tom Brady.
Oh, well, that's another story for another day. Let's get to the important topic at hand, as we do every time Adam comes on our Thursday night lineup build. We bring in the lineups. That's right, baby. We've got Eagles, my 7-0 Eagles. I can claim them because I've been talking about Jalen Hurts for years.
Wait a minute.
What are we doing?
Your Eagles.
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
What do you mean?
Well, hold on. So we're diehard. Y'all are diehard Dolphins fans.
I mean, I don't know about diehard Dolphins fans.
I mean, listen, he's not.
Come on. I'm like Mike Ryan. I'm an NFL all 32.
Fan.
You support the Shield.
I support the Shield all 32 , baby.
Yeah,
give me an all 22 with the all 32.
I'm just hard. Hell yeah. I'm just hard Dolphins fan.
You know who I like? My fantasy teams.
Yeah,
correct.
That's it.
Correct.
We don't root for laundry around here.
No, just numbers, and stat sheets.
Numbers.
But yes, my 7-0 Philadelphia Eagles against the Houston Texans, the rare boys, and I will tell you, rare double Philly versus Houston matchup tonight.
Wow.
Yeah.
On the same day, massive stakes. Thursday Night Football, Houston versus Philly. World Series, Houston versus Philly. I know that just blew your mind, Lou.
Tripping out.
It's just, sometimes the stars align.
So and it's like a huge game too. Game 5 too. It's a massive game.
Yeah, it's a 3-game series.
Yeah. Adam is in Houston right now and will be on boots to the ground in NRG Stadium, formerly Reliance Stadium, for Texans and my Eagles. This is a 14-point game, the spread-wise. 14-point game. Eagles are favored. And when you see that kind of line, it's like, woof. At least from a betting perspective. Man, swallowing 14 points is tough. But the Eagles are A, that good, and the Texans are B, that bad. Right? Like, I thought, Adam, what was the sense from the city about the Texans? Obviously, getting rid of Deshaun Watson, having that saga kind of out of the picture. You've got a quarterback that is intriguing, somebody that made some sort of strides last year. Obviously, the coaching staff is interesting. The skill players developing. Like, was this just always thought of as a lost year for Houston?
I think people had tempered expectations. I don't think people thought it would go like this quickly. Look, I mean, Davis Mills had a pretty solid post-bye schedule last year. I believe he had the highest completion percentage on all rookie quarterbacks post their week 8 bye week last year, if I remember that correctly. Like, he was putting up numbers in some games, and I think there was a decent level of optimism for Davis Mills coming into this year. He had an entire offseason to prepare. He had Pep Hamilton coming in to be his offensive coordinator, which people, in the offseason were really high on Pep Hamilton. Cooks was coming back. Nico Collins was, had an offseason to develop. I think people had higher expectations for him. You and I were even, this was the offseason, but we were talking about getting on that train, on the Mills Mafia train.
Yep.
And there were reasons to believe it. I mean, there were guys here at ETR that thought the same way. It just hasn't panned out. Here we are. And now it's kind of hard to have any faith in the offense as a whole, especially on a night like tonight where both Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins are out. So, there's, at this point, a lot of people have their eyes on the draft because that's the one thing that they have successfully been able to do is acquire draft capital, which was a problem in the Bill O'Brien era.
Sure.
So that's kind of what people are looking to. And in the meantime, hey, let's see who can make some plays even while we're in the spot.
So we're looking at a starting lineup for the Texans that includes Chris Moore on the outside and Philip Dorsett II, who I had no idea was in Houston until last week. We have OJ Howard, Brevin Jordan, and Jordan Akins. And I'm trying to see what the other wide receiver 3 is here. Johnny Johnson the third. Is that right? Huh. Whoever that may be, Johnny Johnson the third.
Were you asking?
I was asking, and it's not looking good.
I got frozen out there for a second. Sorry, I missed what y'all.
Oh, you missed me asking if Johnny Johnson the third was wide receiver 3 in this offense. So obviously a very important thing you missed.
No.
So we were talking earlier before we started, and it's like, how do you build a lineup that just isn't so saturated with Eagles when the NFL always does this, right? You go to zig, the NFL zags. It's just that kind of league. It's an oblong ball. Weird things happen, right?
Yeah.
There's no way the Texans win tonight.
I don't think so.
There's zero way.
No, I really don't. And I think the question is not, do we oversaturate our lineups with Eagles? I think that's what we should do, whether we go like a 5-1 or a 4-2. But I think that the tricky part and what we're going to have to figure out when we build is how do we fit that one-sided of a build given the salary constraints? Because Jalen Hurts at captain, if you put him at captain, which I think is a good play. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't play Jalen Hurts on this slate. If you're not, check yourself in the mirror. But if you play him at captain, you're going to have to get a little creative with the rest of the lineup. We're going to have to get
a little dirty.
Yeah,
we're going to have to get a little dirty.
Yeah, we're going to have to look at some cheapies to make that lineup work out. But I think we can do it.
The one thing I will say, and shout out to Cody Main who puts out a great Showdown slate column over at Establish the Run. He was talking about how when you have a running quarterback as your captain in a Showdown slate, like they have to really exceed expectations, especially with a price tag of 17.7, highest on the slate, obviously. Like if you're expecting a ton of points, not only running the ball, which Jalen Hurts I think is on pace to obliterate the record of QB runs in a season, but he's going to have to come through passing wise, which is the most important part, which is the biggest part that scares me, because all of a sudden we can see a scenario where let's say the Eagles get the ball first, they throw the ball around a little bit, Jalen Hurts is 5 for 6, 50 yards, Miles Sanders runs in a touchdown, and then there's a pick six, and they're up 14, and then they score again, it's 21, and it's like this game could get out of hand very quickly where they won't have to use Jalen Hurts' arm. So that's the only thing that gives me some sort of trepidation when I want to pick Jalen Hurts, because I have Hurts everywhere season long. Like DFS, I love playing him. It's just, man, will there be enough meat on the bone come third quarter, fourth quarter for him to live up to the price tag?
I think if we're trying to figure out if the decision here is, are we going to play Hurts at captain or just going to flex him? I think your argument would convince me enough to say that we don't necessarily have to put him at captain, especially if we're going to try to fit in some pricier pieces. That being said, if we're trying to fit in pricier pieces from the Eagles, we're talking about their pass catchers.
Yeah.
And so
he's 11-8, by the way, as a flex. Jalen Hurts, 11-8.
Yeah, 11-8 as a flex. So I guess if we're not thinking that the Eagles passing attack just completely dominates this game and the running game for the Eagles gets going, which is very viable, by the way. The Texans don't have a good run defense whatsoever.
They're the worst run defense in the league.
But Miles Sanders is not necessarily a bell cow back.
Yeah.
Which gives me some trepidation to put a non-Jalen Hurts or a non-Eagles pass catcher at captain spot, because Miles Sanders he's not really not utilized well in the passing game. I mean, they used Kenneth Gainwell in 3rd and long in passing down situations. Boston Scott came back last week and had a role. I think there's a very, very strong chance they utilize all 3 guys tonight, especially if they're up. So I don't know. I'm leaning towards playing a pass catcher an Eagles pass catcher at captain and then putting Hurts at flex, because I also think that will be a little contrarian.
And you want to hear contrarian?
I'm sorry?
You want to hear contrarian?
Okay, give me contrarian.
You want to hear contrarian?
Give me it.
Galaxy brain. Eagles defense as captain.
Bro, you have to do it because I was just thinking that like 5 minutes ago.
Eagles defense. And Cody Main would strike me down with a lightning bolt if he could. He was telling kids to watch, kids' parents on Halloween to watch out for defensive captains in their kids' candies and stuff. So
the thing is, how many lineups are gonna have either Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown,
all of them,
or Devonta Smith? Devonta Smith is my close second. Like if you want to play a captain,
all of them would be like they're all gonna have it. So if we play Eagles,
watching this,
if we play Eagles as our captain, right? We have 10-5 that we can use, and then all of a sudden, everything kind of opens up for us to put, some big time pass catchers in our lineup along with Jalen Hurts. And I know, Adam, that it's not
just stack the box.
It's not sexy.
Shove them all in there. See what it looks like.
It is not sexy, but I mean, if we have a pick six, if there's a couple, a good amount of sacks, which there, absolutely could be, who's gonna do anything in this game?
Look, when I was doing prep for this show, that was not a thought that entered my mind, was putting Eagles D at the captain spot. But look, we're here to have fun, right?
Exactly.
We're here to talk some football. We're here to be smart.
Exactly.
We want to have good, rational conversations about the stuff, but we also got to have fun with it.
Exactly.
And while defensive,
it's like rooting for the under. Nobody wants to do it.
Nobody wants to do it. No one wants to play defense at captain spot. And nobody's going to do it. Nobody is going to do it.
Exactly.
But Tony, you're crazy
unless
enough
you're
to
watching
do it.
the show.
I'm crazy
Tony,
enough to do it.
If you're crazy enough to do it, I support you, brother.
I'm crazy enough to do it. I mean, dude, we've been burned by so many bad Thursday night games where the defense has been the best player on the slate. And it's like, why are we going to change it up? Why do we think this is going to be any different? This is a horrible team. This is a really bad team that could get the number one pick. Their offense is decimated. They have nobody. Okay, Philip Dorsett and I went to high school together, possibly. Like, he's that old, and he's their number one wide receiver. Like,
possibly.
Actually, Lewis, can you look up? Can you look up when Philip Dorsett graduated high school?
Do you want me to just yell that? Do you want me to just yell out from the stands tonight at Philip
When did
Dorsett?
you graduate?
Philip, hey, Philip, Tony, do you know Tony? Tony Calatayud says what's up.
Yeah, I went to St. Thomas. What year? What year did you graduate?
Okay, let's take a look. Hold on.
I'm on the edge of my seat, literally.
Brody, I think he's a 2010 skis.
Okay, exactly. Me and him were together senior year. He was playing at St. Thomas Aquinas, and I was at Killian. Like, that means he's 30 to 31 years old.
For sure, he's our age.
He's our age, number one wide receiver for a Houston offense right now. So with that being the case, with them really not having any tight ends that are worth anything, the only guy is Dameon Pierce.
Tight ends that aren't worth anything. You had a gross play, Tony. I had a gross play in my back pocket for you as well.
Oh my God.
I had a gross play in my back pocket. I don't know if it really makes sense if we're gonna go Eagles D at captain, because we might not have to go down this low to get this guy. But let's talk about the Texans offense a little bit and what they're dealing with. We already alluded to they don't have Brandon Cooks tonight because he's real mad.
Right.
They don't have Nico Collins because he's hurt. Their starting wide receivers are Chris Moore and Philip Dorsett and Tyron Johnson, who they just signed a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago. That's probably going to be their 3 wide receiver set. But here's the thing. I don't think we're going to see a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. Small move on the side. They elevated Tegan Quintaro. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Tegan Quintriano. Tegan Quintriano. He's a rookie that they drafted in the 4th round. That tells me that the Texans are going to go super heavy personnel packages, and we could see a lot of 2 tight end or 3 tight end sets tonight.
A little 12 or 13. What do you say?
12 or 13. We could even see 14, man. We could even see 14.
Oh my god! Goal line stack at the 20.
A lot of people, and I know Cody, Nate, and Gary Hartman were talking about the Texans tight end situation on their YouTube show earlier today, which, by the way, y'all should check out on the Established Run YouTube channel every Thursday at noon before these slates begin. Which of these tight ends, Brevin Jordan, they've got Jordan Akins, OJ Howard, and they called up Quinciano, but I don't think he's going to really be much of a factor in the offense. Some guys have been talking up Brevin Jordan. He's an athlete, as you guys know, went to Miami, the U. Yep. I mean, you saw his skill set there. In my opinion, the best tight end for the Texans this year has been Jordan Akins. He's a bigger body. They like to use him in these play action heavy tight end sets where they leak him out into the flat. And the one strength that he has is he's pretty good after the catch. And, I don't necessarily think Davis Mills is going to have time or going to have the weapons to throw deep. Jordan Akins has been utilized in the red zone in the passing game. He's caught touchdowns this year. Again, I don't know if we need to play him given the rest of our salaries are going to work out, but I just want to throw it out there. If we're going to play a gross play,
I'd like to keep it in the back pocket. Yeah.
Let's keep it in the back pocket.
The thing is, I know for a fact that the Houston Texans are going to score a touchdown, and it's to some asshole tight ends. So we have to just pick which one they are. I'm sure they're not.
I just gave you one.
Yeah, Jordan Akins. Okay, so we gotta get Jalen Hurts in here. Let's just automatically put that.
Put him in.
AJ Brown. We gotta put him in. 16-5.
Devonta Smith. Put him in there too.
Okay, we're gonna have 8-3 for two guys. Damn.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about.
Go dirt.
Salary.
I mean, do we? No, Goddard's gonna.
Goddard. Go dirt.
I don't know.
I mean, look, if we put in Goddard, then we've got enough salary to go get Mr. Akins.
We could.
And we don't have enough. We don't have enough for Boston Scott, which was another interesting play that I thought of. In case
we're
this
down
goes in,
$1,000, $100, man. Damn, Dario Gumbawale at 2,000. Jeez.
That's. I'm not sold.
No. I'm just surprised that he's 2K.
Yeah. They still got Rex. They still got Rex in there. He's still getting some work. We could see a Dare drive though at the end of the game if it's a blowout. So we got a decision to make.
No, we went double dirty, dude. We're gonna go double dirty. Like
I think you double dirty it, bro.
We got to.
It's like perfect. It's like perfect.
We're gonna leave $900 on the table, but that's fine. No biggie.
It's okay. Sometimes that's all right in these showdowns.
Exactly. Eagles captain Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown. Man, we're hoping for a lot here.
And we kind of have to hope that the Eagles come out really pass heavy.
Yeah.
And just pepper the Texans in the passing game because we want the game script to play out appropriately. If the Eagles were to get like a defensive score early on in the game,
we're cooked.
Yeah.
We're cooked. Well, not really.
Well, really. I mean, but what's more likely to happen? That it's like they get the defensive touchdown and the defensive success early, and then they go back to the passing game, or do they go? They have to go to the passing game early, be successful there, and then like towards the end of the game, they get like a fumble, they get enough sacks, so they get a scoop and score.
The Texans,
or pick six. And it could work out because the Texans love using Dameon Pierce, even in trailing game scripts, but the way that the spread kind of dictates it, we're going to have a lot of garbage time, and it's not totally unprecedented that it could happen.
Yeah, I was trying to see if we would take out one pass catcher. I mean, we technically could. No, we can't. I was going to say the only guy that we could take out would be Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
But the math doesn't add up to put in Miles Sanders at 10-4. Just to get exposure to somebody inside of the inside of the backfield there outside of Jalen Hurts. But
it's painful because again, we know how susceptible the Texans are in run defense, and we're completely almost fading that.
Yeah, we're fading it, and we're basically saying, that they're gonna be super pass heavy. And Texans secondary is not horrible, right? I think they're obviously more susceptible to the ground than they are through the air.
What if you remove Goddard and Akins?
That would only give us. It would give us 90. It was not much. 8,300. And then we'd still have to fill in. Yeah, we'd still have to fill in 2 guys.
Right, and are we excited about playing?
No.
Guys.
Whoever it is, you're gonna say no. Yeah, whoever it is, you're gonna say no. I have no.
Yeah.
Do we fade Devonta Smith?
Yeah, but who would we put in? That's the question, right? If we're taking out
Brown?
No, we can't.
The good thing about having Akins in here is that he's going to give us a bit of a unique build, because I don't think a lot of people are going to play Akins at all. So, but the rest of these Eagles guys are going to be heavily owned.
There's nobody else to play. There's just nobody else to play with a conscious mind. You're not going to put Chris Moore. You're not going to put Philip Dorsett. You're not going to put, I'm guessing there's going to be some lineups that have Dameon Pierce in it.
Oh, I think there will be
lineups. Yeah,
I think there will be a lot of lineups with Dameon Pierce in it. I think he's our third highest projected play.
Yeah, he has to be, just because he's going to be getting so many touches, right? There's just nobody else that they're going to feature.
Tony, question for you. Going back to actual narrative of the game, the Eagles need to throttle the Texans, right? They need to blow these guys out.
Yeah, grand scheme NFL wise, yes.
Yes.
They have probably the easiest schedule out of any other team. They're already 7-0, and if you go on primetime, which they've already beaten Kirk on primetime on Monday night, when they just shut him down with completely.
Kirk always loses in primetime.
Yeah, but Justin Jefferson got shut down by Darius Slay. They shut the Vikings down, and now the Vikings are second seed in the NFC. But when you look across the lot of their games, they don't play anybody, right? They have a divisional matchup with the Cowboys coming up. They play the Packers. That's really it. They don't really have any other team that's going to push them. So if they struggle tonight against the Texans, it's maybe something to put in the back of your mind.
Well,
not saying it means something, but just saying.
Let's talk about Philadelphia's game last week against Pittsburgh, right? Jalen went to AJ Brown over and over again in the first half, even though they couldn't stop him. They couldn't stop him, and they kind of took the pedal off
their foot off the gas.
The foot off the. Why am I?
You got it.
Yeah,
we got there.
Tricky phrase. But they have shown us, hey, we're going to come out and we're going to go at you. So it's just a matter of, hey, do they spread around the targets enough to get all 3 of those guys involved to a degree that can win you a slate like this?
Oof.
I'm not mad at the lineup. I think I think the saying in DFS is, if you look at your lineup at when you're done building it and you feel 100% confident in it, you're gonna lose.
Yes.
So you got to be a little uncomfortable with what you're playing. And certainly playing Eagles D at captain spot will make any Showdown player uncomfortable. But like I said, we like to have fun.
Dude, the last one we did was, I think, the Denver and Indy game. That was the last live stream we did. And if I remember correctly, do they do millies? Do they do millie makers on Thursday nights? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So the millie maker winner for Denver versus Indy, I think we can go back and look at it, was Denver's defense, Indy's defense, both kickers, Alec Pierce at captain, and somebody else that was just random. And that dude won $1 million. So it's
that was also it is in the running for worst game of the year.
Oh, easily. Easily.
And just because the Texans are playing in this game, we got the Eagles. These are not two inept teams.
If it was Panthers, Texans.
Yeah.
It'd be like, even though Panthers are 1 game out.
No, yeah.
And PJ Walker is looking like an all-star.
Right.
What's a worse team? Like Raiders, Texans. I'd be like, oh God. Even though that Raiders have some pieces. They're just, I don't know if it's they're poorly coached or what, but the Raiders are in trouble a little bit.
Are the Raiders for real?
No, they're decidedly not back. That was I was actually looking through Tony's top 5s throughout the year, and I think week 3 I had a nice little double duty. Raiders decidedly not back or decidedly not for real, and number 2 was Jalen Hurts MVP. And buddy, let me tell you what. If you look on DraftKings Sportsbook as of recent, let me see if I can pull up my phone here. If you've looked at DraftKings Sportsbook as of recent, the odds for NFL's most valuable player, Josh Allen right now leads all players at plus 120. Guess who's second with the shortest odds for MVP? That's right, Jalen Hurts at plus 350.
That's what we love to see.
I rest my case, Your Honor. My Philadelphia Eagles tonight. Smash. I'm calling it. Okay, I'm going to call it here. We're going to go predictions around the horn. I'm going 38-7. Eagles just take care of business. A touchdown to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. And a running touchdown for Jalen Hurts. And a scoop and score for the defense. And we win $2,500.
That's kind of gas.
Are we good? Is that for everybody? Can everybody go with that one?
I had him 41-6.
Wow. Okay. Double.
I would just go maybe a little. I was just gonna say around you, maybe 31-7, 28. No, got to be more than 20. Probably 31-7, 34-7. I don't think. I think it's gonna be at most maybe like 10 points for Houston.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out. Thank you for this lineup, Adam. Let me update the entry so when we win, All right. Boom. We're good. We are locked in. Always a pleasure, Adam. You're going to be at the game. Have a good time, buddy. Send us some pictures. Scream at Philip Dorsett for me. See what year he graduated high school.
2010.
Thank you. I want to hear from him though.
We'll do our best. We'll see what we can. See what we can get out. Yeah.
Attaboy. Thank you for everybody in the chat for hanging out as usual. We will not have a Smart Football People next week because the boys will be in New York City for UFC 281, a massive card at Madison Square Garden, the Mecca. The boys will be out there, me, Lewis, and Juju. So no Smart Football People next week. The week after that, we're back with FSP. SFP. So, that's how we do it. Thank you to everybody for hanging out, and we'll see you guys 2 weeks from now. Peace.